like, I do not like Houston.
To put it nicely.
I've heard this several times from people that they're not big fans of Houston. People who are from Houston.
I do not like Houston.
Sure. Is there like one or two top reasons? You have to go into it. There's like one or two top reasons why. Maybe one reason.
What is there to do?
Is there to do? It's the same reason all of us leave everywhere we're from.
That's true, yeah.
Like, what is there to do?
Yeah.
Like, it's gigantic. It's a huge concrete jungle.
Yeah.
You know, it's ugly.
Yep.
No zoning laws. It's like really ugly.
There's
and
no water.
No, there's a bayou. You're not going to the
disgusting.
bayou.
No.
You're not going in the bayou.
No, it's not happening.
And I mean, honestly, I think that I personally also don't necessarily love Houston because of like a lot of memories that I have there.
For sure.
So, yeah, I was like, I need to get to Austin. And I ended up moving to another store here in Austin, up north at like the Gateway location, and was a graphic artist there. And yeah, I still, throughout this time though, the ongoing like pressure of like figuring out who I am and what I'm doing was always present.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I wasn't making a lot of money being a store graphic artist, you know, and I was still very much just like trying to figure out like what my next steps were.
Yeah.
And I, you know, was struggled with mental health for the majority of my life, and so that was also like a big component and piece because I didn't think that I deserved more. I couldn't even like picture that for myself. I didn't know what that looked like.
Yeah.
You know, I would go to look for a job and I'm like, what do I even look for? Like, what do I type?
Yeah.
Like, how do I describe myself? What is it I want to do? Like, can I make $40,000 a year? Do I deserve that? You know, like, oh, that's too much, you know, or like crazy shit like that. Just like super limiting and, you know, just playing really, really small.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, this is all happening while the whole pet portrait thing is happening too. And at the time, I was in a relationship with someone, and we were living together, and that ended. And then, like, that year was like a pretty big year. I guess that was like, I don't know, maybe like 2017, I would say. 2018.
Time's weird.
Time is weird.
But this is the same year where you moved to Austin, stopped doing the portrait business, break up with the person that you were living with.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So I moved to Austin like November of. When did Trump get elected? Like
2016?
2016.
2016, yeah.
Okay.
So it was 2016 to 2020 was when he was president.
Okay, so I moved here like November of 2016.
Okay.
I remember that.
I remember all that.
I remember that because I was temporarily like living with a friend, and I remember that night, and like I remember that.
Yes.
That's
It's a great way of judging it. It's like, Trump elected it. Yeah.
It's like, when did that whole thing happen?
Yeah.
So you've been here for 6 years.
Yeah.
5 and a half.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
moved here.
I moved here. Then I like got my own place in I don't know, maybe like January. That's when my boyfriend at the time like moved in. We moved in together.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was December. Yeah, it was December. And I was still doing the pet portraits. I was still working in the store at Whole Foods, and very much like starting to get to the peak of like my darkest days. Like that's kind of like when it was like really culminating. Like it's definitely started the year prior when I was still living in Houston, but it like really exasperated and like got bigger like in 2017.
Yeah.
And then in July of that year is when I remember thinking, if this individual ever hears this podcast episode, he knows I have nothing but love for him. Like,
It's okay. It's fair.
Even better.
Yeah, he knows I have nothing but love for him. But I remember I was like, oh my God, we have our lease until December. Like, can I just stick this out until December?
This is January?
This is like
March.
around July-ish.
Okay, so like halfway.
June, July.
So it's
Yeah.
like 6 months.
So like a good 5-6 months.
Yeah. And I was like, can I do this? And, I was extremely unhappy for multiple reasons, apart from the relationship, just with myself.
Just in general.
Myself, completely.
Yeah.
And I remember there was just one day where he came home and I just started bursting out into tears, and I was like, I can't lie, I can't do this anymore. And I'm extremely grateful for him because, till this day we're still friends, and, he was extremely, loving throughout the entire situation, and, it was my choice to leave the apartment, but that was also really difficult because all my stuff was there, and I decided to just, crash with some friends and kind of just, go from there and until I figured shit out.
So were you planning on taking any of your stuff back, or are you just, you're going to leave it there?
I was just going to leave it there because I
Yeah.
didn't have anywhere else to put it, and, I was still paying rent there.
Okay.
And, I was, like I said, working at a job where I wasn't making a lot of money. I was trying to figure out what my next steps were. I was, trying to do a lot of these things, and I was just trying to figure it out day by day.
Everything was pretty much, up in the air for you.
Completely up in the air.
Yeah.
And then there was an internship that opened up at the corporate offices at Whole Foods. And I was like, oh my God, this is my way in to learn something new and get into the marketing department at Whole Foods, and all these different things were running through my head, but that meant an even greater pay cut. And I also knew that I was needing to find a place for myself. I was going to be living by myself, thinking about money and stressing out about that of what can I afford? What can I I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I took a massive leap of faith. I quit my job at the store. Well, yeah, I quit my job after I got the internship, moved on to this internship, and was just crossing fingers that I was going to get hired on eventually, which I did.
Good.
And
Spoiler alert there, guys.
Spoiler alert, yeah.
I guess you did.
I did.
She didn't die of starvation. She's made it.
Yeah.
You're good.
And, I ended up finding a place for myself, which was unheard of, y'all. I found a place for $700 a month.
In Austin.
In Austin.
And it was your own apartment? Or your
It was a duplex.
That's wild.
It was unheard of.
Yeah.
And it will never be heard of again in Austin.
No.
For as long as we live.
No. And I mean, granted, it was pretty shitty. It was this duplex where, the main house was the majority of the house, and, my part was basically just, a studio space.
Yeah.
And that, living there is another story.
We can come back to it in a minute. We got a plethora of stories. I love it.
That in itself was but there was a negative energy in that space.
Yeah.
And once I moved in there, that's really where I felt major resistance towards painting.
In that apartment?
In that apartment. That's, it was starting beforehand,
Yeah.
but then, once I was in that new space, it was I cannot. And it was a small space, so, I would walk by my desk every day that had all of my, my little creative spot. I had that, and I remember just, feeling so much, shame and guilt. I'm it's right there, but I can't do it. I just have such a resistance to it. I cannot do it. And I felt a complete imposter. Like, I felt so fake. I didn't feel like I was creative. I didn't, all of the things, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and living there was also when I did hit, like, my absolute, like,
Rock bottom.
rock bottom.
Raucous.
Yeah. Like, mentally.
Yeah.
Like, that was it. Like, I even remember one of my best friends from college came to visit. She lives in Boston, and, like, I didn't even leave my house.
Really?
See her.
Yeah. Like, I just, like, couldn't. Like, I think the plan was that she was supposed to stay with me,
Yeah.
and I was just like, I can't.
Can't.
Like, I can't.
It's just not gonna happen.
Like, I just shut everything off. I shut everyone off. Like, I completely closed myself
Were you
off.
still working at all or no?
Yeah, I was still working at Whole Foods.
But that was it. That was like your only outside interaction, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. That and, like, going to the gym, and yeah, I mean, like, that's about it.
Yeah.
And
How long did that go on for? At like what you just described at that level, how long was that period of time? If you remember.
I mean, a while. Like I said, it had been culminating for. I mean, it's been culminating my entire life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, it's been
Like,
culminating.
this has been happening for.
It's been happening.
It's like you're an adult now. It's like either you deal with your shit or it's
Yeah.
done at that point.
Yeah, so it definitely had been culminating for a while, and this part lasted, I mean, I would say, I don't know, a year?
Yeah.
Like a solid year.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
And it was, I didn't really know what to do or how to cope or anything, or like I didn't know what to do with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually, like, again in 2017, in the fall of that year, that one of my good friends took her own life. And that's kind of like when I was like, okay, I'm choking. Like, I need help. Yeah. And that's when I actually took the first steps to go see a therapist. Because I had, like, a reference before, but I never, like, did anything with it, or a referral.
Yeah.
And it was December of 2017 where I went to therapy for the first time.
In your life?
In my life.
Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, and that, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, found something that my insurance would cover, showed up.
Yeah.
Luckily homegirl was, like, so sweet and gentle with me, like, because I'm just like,
I'm literally a child right now that doesn't know what to do with my emotions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, hands down, one of the best things I could have ever done for myself, for sure. That was, like, the start of me, like, really figuring out myself and who I am.
So how long ago was that?
That was 5 years.
5 years ago?
27, yeah.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, what was that first time like with your therapist? Like, what did that, if you had to describe it?
Emotional? A lot.
She was just, like, crying for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you busy next month? Cool. Like, we're just gonna hang out for next month. That's what he said.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, very emotional. It was, like, the first time where I feel like I was actually speaking how I was feeling, or making connections on things. Going back to my childhood, emotions were never welcome. So never welcome, right? Like, stop crying. Why are you crying? Oh, you're just a woman. Like, if I was to have any sort of emotion about anything, I also was not allowed to say anything, with the fear that if I said something, like, I would get in trouble.